Hi, I'm Erin Lundy.
And I'm Madeline Walden, and this is
Aquarium of the Pacific,
a podcast brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, Southern California's largest aquarium.
Join us as we learn alongside the experts in animal care, conservation, and more.
Welcome back to the Aquarium of the Pacific. My name is Madeline Walden. I'm the aquarium's digital content and community manager.
And I'm Erin Lundy, the manager of conservation initiatives here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.
And today we had on, you're going to hear it in a minute, Frankie Lill, who is a former Aquarium of the Pacific employee who is now employed by
the Oiled Wildlife Care Network. Frankie is actually a huge reason why I'm involved in conservation at all. And in fact, she is the one who let me know about OWCN when I was just starting out here at the aquarium, and that she had joined it and she was participating in some of the oil spill and disaster response that network participates in. The Aquarium of the Pacific is one of about 40 member organizations that are part of the Oiled Wildlife Care Network, making up the network portion of that, all throughout California, primarily comprised of wildlife experts and rehabilitators who can make a huge difference to the animals that are impacted by natural disasters and oil spills. We are very fortunate that that network exists in California, and I guess by fortunate, I just mean fortunate that there was a lot of logic and planning that went into creating such a large and robust network of wildlife responders. But Frankie actually gets to help with a lot of the personnel management and deploying people to a spill, which is pretty cool. So sometimes I get an email from Frankie, just like last week. Yep. And in those instances where the network is activated, each individual responder will receive some communication about what is happening and what their sort of timeline and expectations are. There are sometimes certain levels of training that you have to hit before you are deployed to certain activities. And last week we did have an oiling event that did impact some birds. The Oiled Wildlife Care Network activated in order to get people out there to help collect those birds and also to survey what was going on in that area. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the people who was deployed to assist with that. It was pretty cool. And it is honestly always my favorite thing to be around people who are so passionate about saving wildlife that they would put on an entire Tyvek suit over and over and over and over and over again every time they see a bird that needs help. And it is not easy to put on all of the PPE that is required to respond to an oiling event, including PPE that helps protect from highly pathogenic avian influenza, also known as HPAI, that is currently very prevalent across the United States, but here in California as well. So all that to say, the Oiled Wildlife Care Network did activate in response to some birds that were impacted by oil in Ventura County, and a handful of responders did deploy to respond to this event. We're very fortunate that the network exists for reasons like this, that a handful of wildlife could be impacted by something, and there exists a network of experts and professionals who will drop everything that they had going on, including a podcast recording, in order to go and respond to these types of activities.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty important. So
it is
I'm
pretty
okay
important
that you missed a recording. That's totally fine by me. What should people do if they see oiled wildlife?
If you see oiled wildlife, it is pretty important that you let somebody know. And so if you called 1-877-UCD-OWCN and report that oiled wildlife immediately, that would be enormously helpful. Please do not feel like you need to pick up oiled wildlife. The oil can be incredibly dangerous, as can the wildlife. And so it is critical that we activate the correct people. So again, that number is 1-877-UCD-OWCN, and it will be in the show notes as well.
Absolutely, and we'll leave it to the experts to take care of it, like Erin.
Thanks, Frankie.
Frankie is so knowledgeable, and we learned so much about how OWCN operates, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to know her.
And she's one of the coolest people I've ever met, so sorry, Madeline.
And now she's on the podcast.
And now she's even cooler.
Yeah, so now she's making our podcast cool. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness someone made it cool.
Someone
We've been waiting. Neither Madeline or I have brought the cool to this podcast.
We're trying.
Yeah, but
we're failing.
Trying to be cool is like the opposite of being cool.
I know. Well, that's why we have Frankie here today.
Fair. So anyway.
As always, you can email us at podcific@lbaop.org.
Please email us.
Please email us.
I love email.
I love email.
Please email us. What is our email?
podcific@lbaop.org. You can also follow the podcast at Podcific on Instagram. And also, we would greatly appreciate your 5-star reviews on whatever platform you are listening on, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Your 5-star review means so much to us and also helps our podcast be shown to a wider audience. So we appreciate that. And let's get into the episode. We'll see you next time.
Frankie. Frankie Lill. Welcome, Frankie.
Ooh,
Hi,
thank
Frankie.
you.
Frankie Lill is the wildlife planning specialist at the Oiled Wildlife Care Network and also our former colleague here at the Aquarium of the Pacific.
Yay.
So this is really exciting. This is the first time we've had an external guest on that also used to work here.
Yes.
Thrilling.
That is correct.
What did you used to do here at the aquarium?
Lots of things.
I know.
Primarily, I was here to work with the birds and then the herps. I did a lot of frog stuff with Erin.
Yeah, we were froggers together.
Oh.
Did a lot of social media stuff with Madeline. No, I oversaw a lot of the volunteer program within the bird and mammal and amphibian department. And I also was on the team of aviculturists who maintained the bird habitats. I think my claim to fame is penguins and puffins.
Yeah, definitely.
Now that you don't work here anymore, who is your favorite animal at the aquarium?
Here?
Yes.
Well, today I was very excited to work with the snails. See the snails?
The abalone.
No.
Just
What snails?
In the shorebird exhibit.
aquatic
Oh,
snails?
no, I know those snails. Yeah,
See?
Sophia sent me a video of them. We're gonna post them soon.
The snails.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that is my new favorite animal at the aquarium.
No,
Also mine.
I'm trying to think what my favorite animals are. It's got to be a frog. Probably the mountain yellow-legged frogs.
They're pretty cool. Frankie and I had the opportunity to actually start that program here together, and so we were both very critical for the development of our existing protocols and our successes with our releases of our mountain yellow-legged frogs. And even though Frankie has moved on to do oiled wildlife things, which we will talk about today, her legacy carries on in that frog room, and there's actually a lot of stuff that you helped to develop that is still in practice today. So thank you, the frogs, thank you. You've saved the frogs.
Well, I love
Thank
that you
you.
are still continuing your work in the conservation field. What are you doing now? What does your life look like outside of AOP?
Yeah, it's kind of like a twofold answer. So I work within the Oiled Wildlife Care Network's management team. So there's 10 of us that live up at UC Davis within the School of Veterinary Medicine, One Health Institute, Wildlife Health Center. And then there's us where we call it like a Russian doll, kind of nesting dolls of titles. But we are the team of people mandated to respond to oiled wildlife in California. So that's just 9 or 10 of us, and we cannot do that alone. So my role is actually helping maintain and manage our entire network of people. So the Aquarium of the Pacific is actually one of our member organizations, and during a spill, I do all the personnel coordinating and more, whatever needs to happen.
It's been really cool because Frankie and I used to work really closely together, and now if an oil spill happens or if there's a training or if there's something, I get to hear directly from Frankie to help coordinate our staff
Because
participation.
you are the contact, right, for OWCN?
You are the contact.
Frankie manages the N of
I manage the N.
the entire network. And so when we have things that happen, Frankie actually helps to manage all of the staff coordination that goes into it, which is a lot of coordination, a lot of emails from Frankie, which is good.
I know, but I'm not involved at all. But it is also nice to see like Frankie pop up in my email time to time with random things. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh, thanks.
It is cool.
It's fun to have connections.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been really fortunate that we've been able to be a member organization through the Oiled Wildlife Care Network for a long time. I think we just hit our 20-year mark at the aquarium.
I think we gave you a certificate last year, and it said
Where is
19
it?
or 20 years.
I accepted the certificate, but I can't remember what it exactly
I know
said.
I gave it to you.
I think it made it back here.
No, I've seen it hanging in your office for sure. It's up there. It's framed.
I think it's the center art piece in your office.
right next to the golden
I
retrievers.
think I put it in Brett's office, so who knows
There
where it
we
went. But we have been a member organization with the OWCN for many years, and our participation has grown somewhat exponentially in the last 5 or 6 years. We went from having a couple of trained responders who could help participate in a spill to now 23 people who at any point can go out and help with an oil spill. So why don't you break down a little bit about what the network looks like on your end and sort of the structure of the OWCN?
Yeah, so I tend to split this up in like spill and non-spill time. So for non-spill times, I do a lot of so I'm on the planning team. So I do a lot of the planning for the year within the training and engagement schedule, calendar, some say.
As some may say,
the training and now I can't say it. The schedule, and spending a lot of time analyzing the state and evaluating what regions need what sort of training so that we can keep it equal. And it's hard to think about because Region 1, which is Northern California, has like 77 responders to the like 900 in Region 5, which is
Wow.
Southern California.
Oh, wow.
So we just, you can't do equal things to both areas, but we try really hard to level out what each area needs. So I spend a lot of time helping to delegate the training schedule to ensure people can get important training. So when it comes to oiled wildlife response, we ask that you are a part of a member organization, but we will teach you everything you need to know to participate in oiled wildlife response. And that's the nice thing.
So is that just a population thing, or is that because there's more risk of oil spill in Southern California versus Northern?
It's got to be a population thing.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot happening in Humboldt and North. I should say there used to be. We have, so that was non-spill times. I do a lot of like the outreach communications, just talking to people, managing the database and the email. In spill times, I do personnel coordination. So all of the paperwork and communications to get responders from day one until the end of the operation, that's my role to help ensure that everyone is where they need to be with the tools that they need, clocking in and out of their time clocks. Aaron.
Who's really bad at that, I wonder?
No. I understand, because I've been on the other side of things where you're just busy. You get there, you're excited. There's an energy in the air, even though you know you're walking into a very exhausting day. And there's signs. You just get excited to see people and start working that the time clock isn't the most important thing. And that's what I'm here for, to make sure that everything's lined up. Sometimes that may feel like this daunting thing, but it's easy for me, and that's what I do. I remind people to clock in and out. HR, as you say.
It's important, especially in kind of, I would assume, like, it is organized chaos, because it can't not be this, this catastrophic thing. So you need someone there to kind of be the structure to the day, I'm sure. So making sure that, you guys are clocking in and out. And is that to just record time, just so that way you can keep track of things?
It's to record time, and also an oil spill that we are a part of is a legal case. Mm-hmm. So everything gets reported, from how much staff and any kind of resource, from food and things to support the humans to food and things to support the animals. And that includes, did we need a boat? Did we need boat operators? How many people are out in the field capturing things? So that kind of nicely leads into the other two departments of the OWCN management team. And there's the operations, which is everything that happens during a spill. Like, we've got the personnel, that's me, and we're managing people, but the act of working around the animals. So from recovery, which is walking the beaches or anywhere inland to capture the animals, to animals being transported to a care facility. And what happens after that? The care facility. There's so many different areas. You have intake and processing, pre-wash care, the great washing of animals, which a lot of people are pretty familiar with the Dawn dish commercials. We do use Dawn. That is our number one question we get asked. Sorry if that was on your list of things for later.
There's a duck on the bottle for a reason. It is because of the OWCN, actually.
It is effective, and over the years, many different people have done research on the best thing to get oil off of animals, and Blue Dawn remains to be the best.
Good for them. So there's a lot that goes into sort of the overall network and the structure. And so between the 10 people that you work with, that is who manages all of the network and personnel and the coordination and the operations of when there's an oil spill, the wildlife component of response, which does not take into account all of the other things that go into oil spill response, which is sort of like the cleanup and sort of keeping an eye on making sure there's public safety and things like that. But this is only the wildlife component, and all of that work goes into just making sure that the animals are recovered and they receive the best possible care that they can in a devastating emergency.
It's a lot, I'm sure.
It's pretty cool.
Does OWCN only oversee California efforts, or do you guys go out of the state?
Yeah, so we actually are mandated by the state of California, and I can kind of explain this after this brief sentence, to only respond to oiled wildlife within California, and that goes out to the 3 Mile International waters line, and all the way inland, dry lake beds, state waters, anywhere where there's a responsible party. This is kind of where my jargon comes in, so please ask for clarification. If there's an owner of the oil that spills, we will step in and be activated. But I am going to take one step back and talk a little bit about the Office of Spill Prevention and Response through CDFW, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So back in the late 80s and early 90s, there was some pretty big catastrophic spills. Exxon Valdez, the Huntington Trader spill. And it was a devastating toll on California's wildlife, the Huntington Trader spill anyway. So the state of California was like, we got to step in. We got to figure out how we're going to support and change this. And so the Office of Spill Prevention and Response, OSPR, was created, and they're actually like our boss. So they activate the OWCN. They are where the money is from. And the whole institution or organization, office, the whole office in that whole branch in CDFW is funded by fees per barrel of oil that moves in and out of the state by these key players at oil companies. So in a lot of ways, it's in a company or a responsible party's best interest to not spill their oil, because they're also paying for restoration of the habitat and everything. It's not just the animals, it's everything.
Absolutely. I'd assume that nobody wants oil to spill.
Right.
But why do oil spills happen? Complicated.
That's the question.
Yeah.
I mean, oil was introduced in what, like, Aaron's Googling it as I...
Petroleum has been used for over 4,000 years.
Well, I mean, plastic production.
Sure. Sorry.
It's human fault, flaws, intervention, and needing to create things that we use. Like all of our clothes are plastic, the headphones we're wearing, the table we're using. Everything we do involves oil, and until something insane comes along that is hopefully more eco-friendly, that's going to keep happening because there's just oil. So where we come in is we're able to have some highly skilled responders,
23, I believe.
23 from the Aquarium of the Pacific. It used to be 24, but then I left. So
They took one from us.
Frankie.
yes.
But then you went to become a manager, so I think that counts for like 10 for us.
No.
So we have
no,
like
no,
100, actually. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
So another answer to that question is, how do oil spills happen?
Yeah.
And it's just how you think it is. Pipelines being ran into, or bursting, whether that's underwater or pipelines within the land. That's ships just having some form of a leak. Could be a crash, could be a fault of other regions. Trains derailing, trucks derailing, trucks de-highwaying.
Just a lot of derailment in general. And then when oil spills, so it happens now both inland and offshore, but the OWCN primarily used to respond to offshore responses, and now it's also inland as well. And so your realm has grown a lot, but it seems like offshore oil spills happen a little bit more frequently, probably just that's where the oil is.
I think I'm going to disagree with you. In our experience, a lot of the incidents have been more inland, and people don't always recognize that that's where it happens. And it could be a small puddle, and 100 toads could be impacted, you know?
No, not the toads.
Not the toads. That's how I
say
feel.
that, yeah.
Thankfully, everyone knock on wood or plastic.
Or plastic or oil. Knock on oil.
Don't knock on the oil. Just don't touch the oil.
So inland spills are happening more frequently, but potentially on a smaller scale.
Yeah, a smaller scale, and when you like literal abundance of oil in the environment. Usually when you hear about a coastline spill, it's kind of drastic and it's being moved with the tides or whatever direction the wind is going. And it's a lot of land that you have to cover, and I don't know, inland it's different, but
Just
it's
kinda stays
equally
there.
it's equally impactful.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I guess I didn't even think or consider that, as obviously a water institution, my focus is on, animals and water, but I didn't even consider that oil spills can happen just about anywhere.
Yeah.
Would you say one is potentially more devastating than the other? Inland
I don't
versus
want to
water?
say that.
No.
Think of the toads, Madeline.
I know.
If I were to step back and think about the whole picture, including the human experience, probably coastline, because it impacts people's lives. When I think about the pipeline P000547 spill of Huntington Beach that I responded to before I transitioned to the OWCN management team, we were walking 13 to 15 miles a day because it's just the oil was hitting everywhere. But the impact on the wildlife was thankfully really low. But we had to close beaches. People were very upset about that. We had to explain why there were dead animals. It's a thing. And so I think if I were to really think about the entire experience, probably coastlines for that reason, because it's louder. There's more media, especially SoCal.
Yeah.
We're lucky enough to have Hollywood.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
think the Huntington Beach oil spill, P000547.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. That spill was actually the first spill that Frankie and I responded to together.
When was this?
2021?
It was all in the same couple of weeks as the Mountain Frogs opening, too.
It was a
So-
lot, yeah. It must have been 2021
So
then.
Yeah, the turns were in the
turns
same
out,
3
right?
months, so there was a lot
I
going
remember,
on.
Yeah.
It was there was a lot going
was a lot
on,
going on.
Yeah. And it was all the year after COVID. But Frankie and I were actually sent out to respond together on some of the days, and we were walking the beaches and looking for animals. And I remember the worst part to me is seeing Crystal Cove State Beach, which is like this
So
beautiful
beautiful.
protected marine reserve covered in oil. Every tide pool covered in oil, animals covered in oil, and just like how devastating the impacts of that individual spill. And that was a pretty big oil spill, but it isn't even near the biggest oil spill that we've had
Right.
in California. And even for that to be the impact, I think with petroleum, it tends to rise to the surface. It floats on the surface of water. And so a lot of animals just landing on the water, like seabirds who normally would just kind of float there, get oiled on their underside just from landing. We saw dead sea slugs. That was the worst.
That was the worst.
And you wouldn't
Poor
think that they'd
guys.
be impacted, so
You
far
don't-
under.
So you don't think about
everything,
fish and
right?
inverts, but I guess that's a good topic for the three of us to talk about because
Yeah.
that's a big part of Aquaria
Sure.
are the fish and inverts, and they were impacted. And that's not a key area that the OWCN works with at the moment. Maybe future research will allow for better
How do you wash
skills.
a fish?
Yeah.
I think the bigger question is how do you capture a fish without re-oiling it? Like,
That's a good question.
so that, things to
talk
think about.
I'll think about it. So I remember responding to that spill with Frankie and being a part of that. And that was when I was pretty new in the network. And so all I was really doing was just doing surveys, taking photos, which all go towards evidence towards this case. Like Frankie said, it's all a legal case that builds against the responsible party to just say, hey, this is the impact that this had on the environment. And it was both a very eye-opening experience to see just what one oil spill can do to like 300-mile stretch of coastline in here in California, and also to like the most beautiful beaches that you've ever seen, and just covered in oil, and everything has tar balls all over it, and it was the worst. But what was the best, the silver lining, is seeing how rapidly this network can mobilize and come together. And we were out there within a day of the spill really
Yeah,
being
we were.
reported. And there was a centralized network set up at Wetlands and Wildlife in Huntington Beach that allowed us to kind of centralize all the animals. And that was where everyone would meet in the morning, make a game plan, talk about the site safety, and then go out for the day with whatever activity was planned for them. And having been a part of the network further on now and kind of getting more training, I've seen how much coordination it takes just
Yeah.
to have that happen. It's pretty cool, but it's also pretty intense. So what's that like for you when a spill happens?
It's exciting in the like worst way, of course. Like,
Well, I can assume, I think when you say exciting, it's exciting because you know that the work that you're about to do is going to be impactful.
Yeah.
So, of course, the situation that caused it is not exciting or thrilling or anything, but it's like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be a part of saving, these animals. So I totally can assume that.
Yeah.
I see what you mean by
it's
exciting.
it's just everything we've been doing to prepare. Like we have 4 R's, which is readiness, response, reaching out, and research. And like I just said this yesterday in a presentation. I made up the number. 96% of our job is readiness, and that's what
Yeah.
it's preparing people to feel confident and have all the tools and resources they need to respond. So when we get a call, we have this meeting. It's called the planning meeting. And it's where we coordinate everything. And we have this really great sheet that we go down, and every question that like we've known to ask, it evolves as things change. We're just able to answer it. We can calculate how many people we need. And once we do that, that's where I get to like step in and start like calling member orgs, and Aaron would be a person that I would call. Hi, Aaron.
Something happened.
Something happened, and
happening.
do you have time to talk? So I get to be the one to kind of, because people are excited to be a part of conservation and participating, and especially if you've been in this organization for 5, 6, 7, 10 years and you haven't ever responded, but you're ready. Like
You've
that's
been
a good
training for
feeling.
this. Yeah.
Yes.
You're ready to be activated.
Yes. So those first moments, we are expected to be like on the way within 2 hours of being activated.
Wow.
So we always will get activated by OSPR, the Office of Spill Prevention and Response. But there's multiple ways to actually call in an oil spill. But if we get called by the public, our hotline will kind of reroute it back to OSPR. And it's so that it's a very intentional activation. We don't just like, hey, there's oil on the ground, there's a pelican nearby. We don't just deploy. So
Yeah.
we still get like a go ahead. But when we get the go-ahead to go, like, it's like, it's exciting.
Yeah, of course. What are the signs of it? What are the beginning signs of an oil spill?
Yeah, what should the public look for?
Yeah.
Well, if you see an animal with oil on it, there's many different viscosities.
That's true.
Big word. Textures,
Yeah,
types of oil. Like diesel oil is thinner and much more harsh to an animal's skin. If you are someone who's in an area and you see impacted animals, like usually their behavior just becomes halted. Like it's not what they should be doing. If you get a pelagic bird like a grebe, which is a pretty common bird we see in the California coastline, and it's beached, a grebe should never be on land. They don't really do that. So, and opposite, if you see a large marine mammal with, a big patch of oil, like
you can tell.
You know when it's not just their fur or feathers or skin. So that's one indicator. But then also if you're at I'm going to keep using the beach as an example because that's where the people are. If you're at the beach and you just see black tar balls, which are or patties, which is just like it's like a plop. A plop. It's like a fidget toy almost. Like it's like the danger.
Yeah. Don't touch it.
The don't touch
Most
fidget toy.
dangerous fidget toy.
Like how slime, that's like it kind of looks like that, but you see it coming in like droves. It's a lot. So if you see oil in the environment or definitely oil on an animal, you would want to call our hotline, which is the Oiled Wildlife Care Network's hotline 1-877-UCD-OWCN or 1-877-823-6926. And this is a 24-hour access hotline that is able to direct you in where you need to go. So sometimes there's just options. If you know for a fact that it's an oil spill and they're impacted animals, it might come straight to our team. There's categories. There's options. If there's no animals involved, it'll go to a different department that also oversees oil cleanup or anything like that.
Can you share a story of a particularly challenging wildlife rescue and what was learned from that experience?
Yeah. Honestly, there's one that comes to mind, and AOP is actually a part of it. Since my role is more administrative, I don't get deployed very often. Of course, I have animal husbandry skill sets, and I was just doing care for 6 days in a row.
And she's really good at it.
Oh,
It's true.
I have those skills, and I'm pretty proud of the level that I'm at with those. Still things to learn, but really, truly, my role is personnel coordinating. But when I responded to that P000547 spill in Huntington Beach, I was in Crystal Cove State Park, and there is a conservancy there, which is a nature conservancy, and I was capturing the bird, and they were filming me, interviewing me right in the moment. And I actually had made a mistake with my clothing. So it's very crucial that you tape up and keep yourself really protected. And it was a total accident. It's not something to brag about. To me, it was this huge learning experience that, like, hey, you are being watched. Like, it's okay, mistakes happen, but now this is a SoCal Newport Beach response. And someone was interviewing me, like, with a whole setup, and it went viral, and I'm now embarrassed. But that's not our proper clothing. It's not how we wear our white Tyvek. It's not like I had one glove untaped, and we had to work with that. And like, I was embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed to this day.
Noble Frankie out there, like, doing amazing work. And granted, like, yeah, you are putting yourself at risk, of course. And we'll get into, why the public shouldn't just rush to an oiled animal or try and assist in these efforts and why these protocols exist. But I think that, it's very obvious your heart is in the right place. And even participating and doing the training for these things, I think it goes to show that just like, you want to help, and everybody has that in them. And we'll talk more about, like, why that is such a big deal. What it's just oil. Yeah. Why can't it touch your skin? No, it's not good. Yeah. But
Frankie, if I remember, yours and my role was originally just like doing surveys, and it was opportunistic that there happened to be a bird that needed help. And so because Frankie had the skill set and was in PPA, apparently for the most part in PPA.
Yeah, it was literally one piece of tape that I didn't have, and I was so embarrassed.
Frankie.
But the reason why it was like it's a capture that I that was hard for me is because I was being interviewed from the second I got out of the car to back in the car with the animal, and we get told in all these trainings, like, you might get addressed, and I actually was my very first bird. so that's what made it challenging. Thankfully, the actual capture was very easy.
Like, that side of it was great.
It was just on the sand, and I picked it up.
And I'm sure It was just there.
This is me. I make things complicated.
I mean, you at that point you're picking up penguins day to day. You're picking up puffins. Like it was pretty common. You had the training for it. I can imagine too. It's an emotional experience. While you're in it, and having to to transfer your energy so quickly into going into action, and then someone coming up and asking you what you're doing. So I can only imagine that in those moments, having the clarity to be able to even speak to anyone, like even your colleague who you were working with, it's got to be difficult. It's got to be challenging all around.
I have to say, and this isn't because we're just in a room and you're having me, what the Aquarium of the Pacific gave me in my time here is that professionalism to be able to, it's because you had me on camera so darn much.
Yeah, Madeline. It's all you, man.
No, but really, the whole, just remembering how you should represent yourself. And we did, sometimes 3 shows a day on microphone, and then we did more with social media. So I do feel like that grace, and I did Toastmasters with, and so we just
shout out Toastmasters.
Shout out to the Wave Makers. If you want to join, I'm sure they're still going.
They are.
We just had an open house. Yeah,
that's really cute. I was a member, so it's because of the training that I had here that really allowed me to even feel comfortable in that moment.
So you have a lot of experience with birds and amphibians at the aquarium, and so you did a lot of handling of those species and those taxa. But oil spills affect everything, and that includes marine mammals. And so how do you feel like you've been prepared through the network to respond to all of the different animals that might come through? Because it could be a baby seal, it could be an adult coyote. There's a lot of different animals that come through. How does the network sort of prepare responders to best handle different species, or do they kind of have specialists for different species come in and help?
That has been the best part about being a network, is that we have 45 member organizations with 45 different specialties, where there's 2 organizations where their entire job, full-time mission is hazing and deterrence, so keeping animals away from the oil. And so when we need them, they're activated for just that role. And then we've got facilities that take in bears and coyotes and I'm sure other large carnivores when the time comes. And so we would call upon them. And then, of course, we have multiple really amazing marine mammal facilities that honestly, I feel so, I'm privileged and sometimes jealous of myself that this is my past self is I can't believe you're doing this. But we have had a lot of opportunity to go to each facility and get the hands-on training, including participating in otter work, which is even harder to come by. But you are an otter expert yourself. If that incident were to ever happen with sea otters,
it's detrimental.
It's detrimental not only to the species, which is bottlenecked on genetics, not dwindling. They're growing in numbers,
they're
but
stable.
They're still endangered.
They're stable. We're lucky to have you experts in the room to discuss the proper verbiage.
I think that I know zero about washing an otter in the case of an oil spill because that hasn't happened in a really long time, both thankfully, but also a little bit worrisome, right? If you don't have practice doing something, how do you know how to do it when the time comes? And sea otters are so adversely impacted by anything that messes their hair up because they love a good hairdo. And also that's what keeps sea otters warm. And so if their fur is at all impacted, they will become hypothermic and then eventually they'll pass away. And that's what oil does, messes your hair up real bad. And for a lot of marine mammals and birds, that is the major impact that oil causes when it impacts their feathers or their fur. And so we hope that there's never an oil spill in a major sea otter area, but if that happens, we need to be ready. And it's been cool to see a lot of different organizations and members of the network participate in sea otter work to just learn how they move, because they move real weird. It's not what you expect. They're basically just
weasels.
Yeah, a little weasel in a huge bag of skin that you don't expect to move the way that it does. And they're strong and they're fast and they do things that you wouldn't expect. And similar to any species, right? If you don't know how to predict what that animal is going to be doing, how are you ever going to catch it out of the ocean in order to help provide care for it? So it's been cool to be part of a network that so prioritizes teaching people the necessary skills and just readiness, one of the R's, so that when and if and hopefully not when something happens, we're ready. And hopefully we can save that species if something that bad ever happens.
Yeah, and on the bird side of things, we worry about snowy plovers. They're oftentimes someone will say a condor, a California condor. Hopefully they just remain up in the trees and don't actually
don't come down here.
don't come down here. But animals like snowy plovers, which are threatened and endangered species, and they're on many lists to be protected. they're kind of in like, although they're very small and less aggressive than a sea otter, they are very particular in how you capture them and work with them.
And delicate. Like, you have to be so careful with a bird that's like 4
6
inches
grams.
Teeny tiny. They're so cute.
Yeah. So the network is just this extraordinary group of people who not only love to be a part of the OWCN, but they want to be a part of it. And they want to, like, who wants to write a protocol? Actually, Aaron wrote a protocol back in the before time.
Speaking of who wants to write a protocol, I feel like Aaron does want to.
There is a small subset of people who do want to write protocols.
That type.
And those people are wonderful for what we do because those protocols help. There are guiding documents to help us make sure we stay in line.
Yeah.
Things happen, not everything. Yeah. And things happen, not everything's the same. It's hard to follow a checklist, but being informed is super helpful.
And what I helped to develop was our protocol for response in the event of a very contagious respiratory disease. I wonder what could have possibly catalyzed our need for that. But because you're in a very tight enclosed space when you're responding to a spill and you are in a car with someone, and can you have the windows down? What safety precautions can you take to protect yourself as a human when you're around these animals? Does this disease potentially transmit to animals? Like, there were a lot of different considerations when there was a global pandemic happening that might have caused, mortality in humans as much as it might have in animals. So it was really cool to see the network come together and be like, hey, we have to brainstorm something, and we are going to get some people together to work on this to keep our responders as safe as we keep our animals. So I very much appreciated being a part of that, and I love writing protocols.
Well, just think about like all the things you listeners have learned about Erin in the last 3 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
14, many episodes about all the things that she does, and just add on like, oh yeah, by the way, she's helping out the OWCN with protocols and how to move forward in this world.
Paperwork. It's my favorite.
Yeah. I think that's why we work well together. Yeah. Because I, don't. No, I do. I get it. It's important. You're just more organized than me.
Frankie sends some great emails. I don't know if that's true these days. But
that I've sent great emails?
The organization.
Because at the beginning of this talk, you mentioned how great my emails were.
And now there's... No.
Now we're in the roast part.
Yeah.
That's fine.
We've brought you here to roast you. Fire and oil go very well together.
It's really cool to see like how involved Erin is in something that is technically outside of her job. I guess not anymore.
The most flattering podcast to me.
I know. It really is.
Not supposed to highlight me at all in this.
You do so much, and on top of it, you're here today hosting a podcast. So
before I fly to Japan,
before you go to
in 12 hours.
I know, exactly.
So
are you packed?
No.
Nope.
Why would I be packed?
Because you're here. Let's talk about these protocols for caring for a wildlife oil affected animal. What does it look like when you do, have an animal in your care? I'm sure it's different per animal, but what are kind of I guess we can stick to coastline. Let's stick to birds.
Let's start with the grebe. So Frankie picks up the grebe. Mm-hmm. The grebe goes in the car. Mm-hmm. The car goes to the facility. Mm-hmm. What happens to the grebe?
I don't know. I drop it off. No, I'm just kidding. Usually, if we're in a scenario where we have a stabilization center set up, we're just making sure that the animal is stable enough to make the transport to the next stop, which would be its primary care center. Mm-hmm. So we're making sure that it's warm. These animals are cold. They've likely lost their ability to maintain their waterproofing. Again, if we're talking about a grebe, they are losing their buoyancy. They're expending all their energy to try to be warm and waterproof and buoyant. And so they're cold. They have no calories in them. So our goal is to get them warm. We might tube them or gavage them with some warm water.
What's gavage?
Gavage is...
I love saying that.
Yeah.
Gavage.
You're so French.
It's a really flexible tube that you put down the animal's throats that goes straight to their belly, where we then input lots of warm goodies.
Got it.
But you Gavaged can gavage. So yeah, or just like a tube. Sometimes we say tubed. Sometimes we say gavage.
The fancy version of it.
Gavage.
Frankie's gavaged, or someone's gavaged the grebe.
Yeah, or maybe it needs an IV. Maybe it's in a little bit more of a critical condition. So there are people that's what they're doing, is they're ensuring the animal is getting what it needs. Maybe they're doing a quick exam to see is anything majorly fractured or broken. Otherwise, there's not a lot of handling of the animal. And when it's ready, it'll go to the primary care center. And that's where ultimately the bird's going to be washed and then released. But before it even can be washed, the animal gets intaked and processed. I kind of touched on it earlier. It's a legal case. So
you're documenting every step
of the way.
Everything, including the animal.
When the animal is collected, we actually use an app that is connected to the database that we're using, and there's a QR code, and you literally take a picture of the animal with the QR code, and it links it to it creates a new animal file for it, and that file follows the animal until it's released. So everything
potentially released, because I'm sure sometimes the animal is ineligible for release or needs to be held or unfortunately deceased or for whatever reason.
Yeah. They're and we'll collect all oiled animals. So whether they are, we say DOA, which is dead on arrival, so deceased or unfortunately have to be euthanized or put into a different type of care scenario because their injuries they're not where we can easily care for them in a big scenario.
So every animal is documented.
Every animal. Oh yes, every animal is documented, and so upon collection it gets like a QR code, and that's basically its ID. So then when it's being intaked, that's when they're getting their first like real exam where you're feeling all the bones, making sure the wings are, again, this is a grebe, making sure the wings, this is not a frog, are not broken or fractured. And there are experts who do this every single day, so we lean on them. Me being in that position right now would be silly because I have some things to learn, but this is a learning opportunity as well. So you're just making sure everything looks good. If the bird is bright, meaning like alert and response. So BAR, bright, alert, and responsive. If their only issue is that they are oiled, then they might be moving through our process a little bit faster. But if they're quiet, it's not quite alert.
I think it is QAR.
QAR. There's lots of different letters we use, but quiet is basically a bird that it's not dying, but it's just like clearly
he's going through it.
It's going through it, lethargic and lots of issues. So you note all of those things
from the oil in some way.
Yeah. So and then it gets processed, which is when you take the samples of the oiled skin feather for this is a grebe, so it's feathers, and you fold it up in its little aluminum thing and you mail it off to some processing.
The feather's not the bird.
Goodbye, bird. We're keeping your feather.
We will care for this feather.
And then it goes into pre-wash care, and that pre-wash care is 2 to 5 days of ensuring an animal is at a healthy level to be washed, which people think we take the bird, we wash them, and we move them on. That's not true. It is really intense to wash an animal, and we want to make sure that their blood values are where they need to be so that we aren't just overly doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to think about. Temperatures, food, weight, injuries.
It's probably pretty stressful for these animals that are not at all used to being around humans, and that might be a little bit scary for them. And so it's been really impressive to watch how the Oiled Wildlife Care Network is able to prioritize finding ways to work with these animals to minimize the amount of stress that they're causing all of these animals during all of the procedures that they do. But yeah, it is definitely a lot of stress on animals, and monitoring their blood values and monitoring their behavior is critically important to make sure that these animals are as healthy as possible and have the best possible outcomes after washing and handling.
And people have really fine-tuned the process over time. They have really, sometimes you get to the process by making errors early on. Like technology has changed, things have changed. Where we are at now is in a really sweet spot of understanding the process, and it's so nice. And then once the animal passes its exam, it goes to cleaning and conditioning. So cleaning is when the great oil removal from the animal. Erin's actually a cleaning and conditioning specialist.
I received the training.
Which is the big training that you kind of level up when you get to your specialty trainings. And this is when the dawn is applied and lots of scrubbing and intenseness. And then you go to rinsing. So rinsing is so important because that's when you're not only rinsing the oil off, but you're rinsing the soap off of it.
Yeah, it's not like that can just sit on the skin of an animal.
So if correct. So a phrase that I learned a long, long time ago was like you're rinsing the feathers dry, which is confusing because water make wet. But and then once they're fully rinsed, you're ensuring a good rinse. Then you will begin that conditioning, which is when an animal gets themselves to a place of waterproofing or able to just maintain their level. So in a grebe, we want to make sure that all of their feathers are dry. They should never be wet. So they could be, if they're wet down to their skin, then you know that this animal is not preening, it's not ready. It needs more. So it's a process. An animal could be doing that for days, weeks. Everyone's a little different, but with lots of tubing and in and out, and if the days are sunny, it's better, and they're warm and they're in the sun. They go in and out of the pools, and then finally we recognize that they are waterproof, they are eating, we're not tubing them anymore. And then maybe there's a hurrah, we get to be released moments.
Yeah.
I have a question about the waterproofing process. So
Yes.
birds have a little bit of oil on their feathers, right? And that helps to keep them waterproof, and that is natural oil, not petroleum oil.
Most birds,
Most birds. And so is it primarily the oil or the structure of the feathers that is keeping the birds waterproof?
Thanks for asking that. No, that's part of the process, is that feathers they're meant to interlock. Each like little piece of a feather. I'm sure there's some like zoomed in feather that is like an iconic, you can kind of see the zipper effect of what a real, like a true healthy feather is supposed to look like. So it's a combination of the two. And it's funny, I'm having like flashbacks to talking about like the preen gland and the earpigeal gland with Sweet Madeline over the years. But that's, most birds do have a gland where they give out
They
give themselves oil that keeps them waterproof. So they actually take their beak or a portion, maybe depending on the animal, their flipper, or they transfer oil from their beak to their flipper, and they are basically, what's this called? I'm doing this.
I know.
What I'm doing is I'm preening my shirt.
She's preening.
They spread the oil all. Thank you. Spread. That was the word I didn't know.
So
they spread the oil all over their body. So with the combination of the perfectly interlocking feathers that are like a blocking any water from getting through, and the layer of oil, that's what we're looking for.
So if you see birds kind of like reaching back towards their tail, and then they rub their face there a lot, and then they rub it all over their body, that's their earpigeal gland, and that's what they're doing.
And here at the aquarium, the two best birds to see that are the penguins and the puffins.
Yeah.
It's just like a really intentional visual where they like stick their tail feathers up and they get their face in there. Most of the birds here at the Aquarium of the Pacific do have that gland, but those are the two kind of, because they live in water and there's like a whole thing to that.
They're cleaning, whereas if I did that, that would be the opposite of cleaning.
Yeah, we might have to have a talk.
This is not waterproofing.
That is the opposite of waterproofing. So then animals go through this conditioning process. That conditioning basically means we are conditioning them to be healthy enough to be released and then go back out. And then once those animals are determined to be healthy enough to be released, what does the release look like? Do you monitor animals post-release, or is it just kind of like go?
I think that's the goal. That there's not always resources to monitor animals, and there's a lot of just people of the public who choose to do that, because some birds go out with really identifiable bands, like the pelicans. If you ever see a blue band on a pelican, it's a part of a research project, so it was released. And then there's sea otters. If they go through a program within here at the Aquarium of the Pacific through your surrogacy program, or the Monterey Bay Aquarium where they have their SORAC team, when animals are getting released, they'll follow them with boats and sometimes helicopters or more planes. I don't know.
I think that like some animals get tagged and some are able to be seen again. And it's been cool to see. I think there's been a couple of instances when we've had animals that have been released from some response that we've done. Like we helped with an elegant tern unusual mortality event in 2021, I think. And we marked them with a pink streak on their head. And then I remembered the year after, so that must have been 2020 that we did terns. The year after, when we were out in Huntington Beach doing beach surveys, we saw these terns with a big pink streak on their head.
It was only 2 months before, because it was terns, frogs, spill.
It was an eventful
That was
summer.
a very eventful year.
And then the next year was pelicans. So it was,
There's a
we
lot.
were having fun.
Busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do remember seeing those young terns out there with a big pink highlighter streak on their head. Yeah. They were going through a phase. They were teenagers at that point, so they had big pink hair. But it was really cool. And it was cool to see animals that had been marked sort of just to keep track of how they were doing post-release still have that a couple months later. And obviously it fades away over time. But they did look rad. So that was also really important.
What can the public do? I mean, you talked a little bit about how if you do observe an oiled animal or oil spill in any way to call the hotline, which is
1-877-UCD-OWCN.
There it is.
That's it.
And thank you for your service.
But what about preventing or assisting with oil spills in any way? Should, if you see an oil spill happening, should you run out to the beach and grab a bird?
No, don't do that.
Please don't.
Their oil is not good for humans' skin, and if you're not picking them up properly, you just don't do that. But please call the hotline or really anyone who's like in more of an emergency services type of role. They can help out. But honestly, like my mind always goes back to like a similar answer about like really like kind of policies and like looking like what can you do to better your little community, your impact, whether it's educating on, to not have so much waste. Because it's hard. I can't tell someone like don't spill oil because that's not the problem. Yeah. and a lot of times kids ask like how can I help? And I think it's important that they're educating themselves and understanding that if you want to really get involved, like join a local facility that you can help. So we're so lucky to have so many wildlife facilities around Southern California and in California alone. But just getting involved in any way with animals and wildlife and understanding their habitat and their needs, you just naturally become more interested in like, how do I preserve this? Mm-hmm. So figuring out how to preserve even your local neighborhood pond, it goes a long way. But what else can the public do? Another thing that tends to happen is our centers are doing a lot of work, and there might be an opportunity if you can't physically help to donate to these centers mm-hmm. to maintain their readiness in the event of an incident. Because it's not always oil spills. There are things that happen that cost a lot of money still. So just consider looking into investing in any way, whether that's your own like actual self-volunteering at the facility or finding a way to get involved or maybe financial assistance.
It's been cool cool is such a weird relative term because you don't want an oil spill to happen, but the outpouring of public support that happens when something happens and people will show up and they'll donate lunches, they'll donate meals to the responders, they'll donate Dawn soap or towels. And so I think it's easy for places to get overwhelmed by an abundance of resources that maybe they don't need. So if you reach out and you kind of figure out, hey, what does this facility actually need in the event of a spill response or whatever is going on, and finding a way to support that need is probably really helpful because towels and stuff get ruined pretty easily mm-hmm. when you are washing an oiled animal or handling oiled animals. And so figuring out how to support those different rehab centers is probably pretty critical too. And supporting the responders is also nice because it's a lot of people working like 18-hour days just to make sure that these birds and other animals have the care that they need. But it's so nice to see everyone come together as a community. And
a lot of people don't think to get involved. And this is not like an insult or a judgment until something happens. So it's also this like overwhelming, like I must help. So you're right. Reaching out, or a lot of times the websites for each facility or even the OWCN will put what can you do to help right now as a resource on social media and websites to help inform. And then I do a lot of outreach with young people from like kids literally where I have stuffed animals and I teach them how to restrain an animal to like middle schoolers and high schoolers who are thinking about being in this world. And I still kind of go back to like, think about your own community. How can you preserve it? And with each day of learning more, like you just become a little bit more of an expert in protecting. So that's my answer. What we don't do in the OWCN is clean up oil. And a lot of people think that we do. We clean oil off of animals, but we don't clean the environment. There are other major departments and companies that come in and do that. So a lot of people ask us like, oh, can I help you clean up the oil? And we're like, no.
And it's dangerous.
Do that part.
Yeah,
I was going to ask, what does that cleanup look like? How is that even possible? If you go down to Crystal Cove and you see that the tide pools are full of oil.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, don't touch it. But what does the cleanup and resolve of that look like?
There were hundreds and hundreds of people that were either contracted through other companies or through the state, and they were walking the beaches, literally picking up each tar patty by patty by patty by patty.
Patty by patty.
And then there's other ways where you can dig and bury, and if it's in the water still, usually you can skim, skimming with like booms and, boat stuff. And or the current and the natural crashing of the wave, because oil is natural at the end of the day. It can be broken down. So there's many different ways to do it. But that example, I saw it with my own eyes. While we were collecting birds, hundreds of people were behind us picking up patties, and they were actually helping us, like, hey, there's a bird over there.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
It's really cool.
That was a really unique event, eye-opening process.
I'm sure. Well, I think all of that is so wonderful, and maybe what we should end on is, what's a piece of advice you would give to someone interested in joining a wildlife response team?
I feel like I've never been asked this specific question. What piece of advice would I give to someone interested? I mean, I think the core of that answer is find a facility nearby and see if that's something you're interested in, whether it's aquatic birds or maybe you really love squirrel conservation or anything, or you want to work with large carnivores. Like, there are rehab facilities for all of them, and most of them are nonprofits seeking volunteer support, and some of them are only volunteers running the entire program. So getting involved will give you the experience, and you might do it and realize, like, oh, this is not for me.
Yeah, I can assume that's true for a lot of people. It's like we talked about earlier, it can be a very emotionally taxing and physically taxing thing to do.
Yeah, it can be incredibly rewarding, or you might find that, like, you are better at the administrative side of things. So I would just find something near you, and if you want to be within the Oiled Wildlife Care Network, if you are in the state of California, you can join any one of our 45 member organizations. And you can check out any of that information at our website, OWCN.org, which will lead you to really everything you need to know to getting involved, including all of our member organizations, such as the Aquarium of the Pacific and many other zoos and aquariums and wildlife rehab facilities. So there's a lot of ways to get involved, and if this is what you want to do, I would go and test it out and see that that's what you want.
Yeah. Frankie, I have to compliment the OWCN, one, for giving me some of the best experiences that I've ever had in my professional career in terms of just being able to see a group of people come together and respond to an emergency. It is so devastating when these things happen, but it's also so heartwarming to see, like, there's 70 people here all of a sudden ready to go, and they show up at like 5 a.m. and they're like, what are we doing today? And everyone has their role and everyone does it really well. And the overall, like, demeanor, and everyone is in not like a good mood, but like working really well together. And the synergy is really exciting to be around, because it's people who have been trained and are ready to respond to this emergency, who dropped everything in their personal and professional lives, and whatever it was that they were doing that day, gone out the window for probably 2 weeks. And they're just there to work for 12, 14 hours a day, whatever the need may be. And it has been one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen in my career. So the OWCN has done such amazing work for the time that it has been a network. And even over the last 5 or 6 years, as I've gotten more involved, it is the coolest thing I've ever had an opportunity to be a part of. So thank you to the entire management team, and thank you to Frankie in general.
No.
But it's...
I do agree with you. I'm just lucky I get to feel that all the time.
Yeah.
Because when people come around and they... Like, one of my mentors in this wildlife rehabilitation world, I met at a response... The Kim Peterson, who was with one of our member orgs and primary care facilities, SeaWorld, for a long time. I met her at a botulism event, which the aquarium participated in as well. And it's
cool to see.
It's unreal, that feeling of, like, just fast friends, and you trust that the people you're working with are all here for the same...
Good people.
Yeah.
Good people, you know?
Good people out there. Erin, if a staff member is listening to this here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, or the staff or volunteer, how can they get involved with OWCN efforts?
Talk to me. That is probably the easiest. There are a couple of considerations that, go into being a responder. And really, before you talk to me, think about, hey, if something happened, do you have capacity in your life to leave for a week or 2 weeks at a time? And by leave, I mean you might get deployed to somewhere in Northern California and not have all the creature comforts. Do you have the ability to do that? And it's okay if you don't. But definitely that is something that is a required part of emergency response. Is an emergency is going to happen in a somewhat unpredictable timeline, and you're going to have to respond to that. And sort of what skill sets do you bring to the table? And let's have a conversation about it. I am more than open to hearing everyone's thoughts and why they want to be a part of the network. We have both staff and volunteers here at the aquarium as part of our network, and some of our volunteers have been responders or just worked at a rehab facility for a really long time. We have veterinarians, we have vet techs, and so there are a lot of different skill sets represented. Even if you don't think you have the skill sets required, let's have a conversation about it, because I think everyone can get involved in their own ways. And even if it's not a perfect fit for you, we'll find something that is a really good fit for you.
I would like to apply that to all member orgs. That's probably a similar conversation you'll have. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, but don't talk to me.
Don't talk to Erin.
Yeah.
Unless you are here at the aquarium.
I mean, talk to me,
Do
but
not speak
don't
to me.
ask me.
Yeah, don't even look at Erin otherwise. No, I
only
kid.
talk to people who work here.
No, you just said that's
not
so
true.
lovely.
Talk to
Literally
Yeah.
talking to someone who doesn't work here right now.
You don't know me.
Really. She's like, and it's really uncomfortable.
and I'm going to stop. No, talk to whoever your primary contacts are and see sort of what the process is of getting involved, because it is a really, really cool network, but it takes a lot out of you, and you put a lot into it, but it's the best. So talk to whoever is responsible.
Talk to your Erin.
Talk to
Find your Erin.
whoever she is.
Yeah,
Go
she
talk
doesn't
to her.
exist anywhere else. We have her.
Sorry.
Dang.
Dang.
Okay. Dang. Well, thank you so much, Frankie, for coming on, and shout out to OWCN for partnering with us on this episode. This is amazing, and we appreciate your time, especially being here in person. It's so special.
Yay, thank you.
All the way from
And-
Davis.
I know.
Woohoo.
We're so lucky. And we'll include links to everything relative that we talked about in our show notes, so check that out. And we'll see you next time. Hopefully you'll come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I secretly was waiting for way too long for the invite, and I guess you finally ran out of people internally,
No,
so
it
you
was
came
time.
externally. No, I'm just kidding.
We needed
I really,
you. Come
really
save us.
I love both of you. I love talking about this amazing work, and I'm really appreciative for being here, so thank
We
you.
love you. We're so happy you're here. Thank you.
Aquarium of the Pacific is brought to you by Aquarium of the Pacific, a 501c3 nonprofit organization.
Keep up with the aquarium on social media at Aquarium Pacific on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
This podcast is produced by Aaron Lundy and Madeline Walden. Our music is by Andrew Reitzma, and our podcast art is by Brandy Kenny. Special thanks to Cecile Fisher, Anitza Valles, our audiovisual and education departments, and our amazing podcast guests for taking time out of their day to talk about the important work that they do.
Pacific isn't possible without the support of the aquarium's donors, members, guests, and supporters. Thanks so much for listening.